What's up, everybody of the world? How's the people out there doing this evening? Good? Awesome. Oh, boy. Oh, my plants are doing quite nicely. Gave them some, I need to get some. I'm hoping that I got that magnesium deficiency turned around. I know that's what that is on my, I'll show it here after a bit. But on my Empire Strikes Mac, the very lower leaf turned like hella yellow on the tip and then got all brown and shitty. None of the other leaves are, it's a little moist. In the back, just keep letting it dry out, slowly keeping the surface moist. Yeah, it's a bitch if you get your soil too wet. Definitely avoid doing that. I'm learning that quickly. Yeah, you don't want to get your fucking, because when you get it way too wet, you end up with your root ball ends up all just saturated with water and shitty, and you just kill your plant. Can't absorb anything. That's not the problem, but you can tell the leaves are a little droopy. That's all right though. You got the Afghani going in there. You know what I noticed about the Afghani? If it looks like an Afghani, like the way it's growing, it actually, I don't know. Like Afghanis just have a certain look, in my opinion. There's like a look to them. I don't know exactly what it is about it. Maybe it's like it's not water, like it's not leaning over, like sort of bent like the ESM is, but just, like maybe it's like not much spacing between the leaf sets or something. I don't know what it is. It just looks unique to the other photos that are growing under there. All right, I'm gonna have me some PACMAN cannabis here, which I was looking at stoner nomenclature, like what that is all about, PACMAN, because honestly, I was thinking like Tupac or some shit. I don't know why, but Adam PACMAN Jones, that's his last name, Jones. Adam PACMAN Jones of the NFL. Apparently, Super Strange named after, but it is biscotti crossed with Jealousy F2, which I have not heard of, honestly. Jealousy F2, which is the biscotti, though, it definitely makes its presence known in the PACMAN. I've got the cannabis here, the flower, and the live resin. And it has like a spicy, sweet, sort of cakey note to it. It's very, very, very super smooth. The inhale and the exhale. It doesn't have any like burn to the exhale like you typically get with trans-caryophyllene. Beta-caryophyllene usually get more of like a kick in the chest. Trans-caryophyllene is more like burning with the exhale. It's nice and smooth like the whole fucking way. It's like an herbal, cakey, spicy, herbal, earthy. It's unique. Very GSC reminiscent. When I first smoked it, the first thing I thought was garlic cookies. Like very similar to that style. Even the buds. If you look at the bud structure, I took a video and put it on Facebook earlier today. If you look at the bud structure and the color and everything, it's very resemblant of GSC or garlic cookies, one of those strains from cookies. From around that time period, really, from about 2012, 2013, up to about 2020, when this one was popped out onto the market in 2020. 2020. All right. Well, I haven't used my banger that the percolator broke off of since the percolator broke off of it, so we're going to go ahead and use that. Tell me how that happens. How a floating percolator in the middle, not touching anything, gets broken and nothing else breaks. How the hell does that happen? I haven't figured it out yet. Snapped off perfectly. Pretty weird. Shoddy glasswork, that would be my assumption. Somebody didn't seal that up on there well enough. Or the percolator broke off and they just rigged it back together, like essentially glued it back together, but didn't do it very well. It's all right. I'll still smoke through it. No problem. Still percolates just fine. Percolate a little. Percolate a little. Some PACMAN. Nice spicy treat. I'd say spicy, but it's not like burny spicy. Don't let that throw you off. It is a very, very smooth and cakey, sweet. It's got a little bit of the indica up to the exhale. That's about it. Ah, that one gave me the shivers. Didn't quite give me goosebumps, but it gave me shivers. For somebody who would have lung issues or have a hard time smoking different strains, a lot of coughing issues, this would be ideal for somebody who has a hard time coughing and doesn't like that, or maybe somebody who wants to smoke but has lung issues of some kind. It's a nice indica that's not going to make you go fucking coughing crazy, lung itchy, back scratchy coughing. That's pretty fucking thick. Just a very slight transcariophylline nip, ever so slight. I don't even know if it's that or just like the base of the humulene indica yuck. I'm getting a phone call. She must not realize I'm live. Sorry, she's right across the parking lot. It's a good thing about your girlfriend living in the same apartment complex. She's just right over there. Don't bother to. It doesn't hurt to ignore the call for a second. She probably just told me she's laying down anyway. Her daughter. She's a good mama for Lena. Lena still is nonverbal at what, she's 12 now. And she's getting big, like she's growing up. I wish there was a way that she could communicate with me and Jill, like show us things, point us in directions, tell like if something's hurting, she'll grab my hand and put it on her head, or if she wants me to rub her head or rub her neck or she directs you and shows you what she wants. Or she'll drag me to the kitchen and point me into the freezer and put my hand on stuff. But she's just nonverbal. She started screaming. She did only have like one very monotonous tone that she would make a lot, and I don't I don't really like the sound that she makes because I don't know. It doesn't bother me, but it just I know what other people think when they hear that sound, and she's not in any way mentally retarded or incapacitated. Like she's fully aware of everything going on around her and like interacts with everything. But she has a good report card. I mean, she's in a special class and everything, but she's just nonverbal. Pretty crazy. She's a good girl, though. She's the only girl in her class, which is pretty much always kind of that way with girls, because the way that works out with autism is much heavier on the male side than the female side. So it ends up that way a lot. Anyway, I found out some interesting shit when I was studying, reviewing Purple Purple Punch. Interesting indeed. And I came to a sort of conclusion that I've been thinking about, and I started to speak on it last night, and then I stopped what I was saying because I thought I was going to misspeak, but I wasn't. I was just not confident in what I was saying yet. So, CBGA is the first cannabinoid that is produced out of the precursor compounds geranyl diphosphate and olivotolic acid. Then you get your other cannabinoids, THC, blah, 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 right? And I talked about how CBNs, like the different one, can be formed through oxidation of delta 9 or decarboxylation of CBNA. Now, CBGA being the cannabigerolic acid, the first compound formed of geranyl diphosphate, easy to remember because geranyl, cannabigerolic, geranyl diphosphate, right? Cannabigerolic acid is the first one made. It would make sense if you think of cannabis terpologically, meaning evolutionarily, that sativa, if whatever the case is that causes sativa characteristic to impact through indica profiles in the way that they do so prominently and dominantly, and it doesn't happen the other way around. You might find a few examples here and there, and probably going to be Kush or OG examples of a linalool, a sativa with linalool in it. Doubt you'll find one with humulene, maybe. But you find all kinds of indicas with lots of terpenoline and lots of osamine and lots of other sativa characteristics. And CBGA is a unique cannabinoid, terpologically speaking, prior to me figuring any of this shit out. Because the pattern is such that in a live resin, approximately 1.5% is the average for indica leaning hybrid. So when you deviate outside that, up or down, typically up is, I was intuiting, or whatever you want to say, reading out of the data, that was indicative of sativa expression in the profile through looking at the genetics and what genetics are present and for all of that shit. Okay, a lot of studying. So anyway, moving on. It makes sense that CBGA is expressive of sativa, characteristic of sativa in the profile, as I stated that I figured out, came intuited, whatever. Now this is proof, a form of proving it, a form of proof of it. The CBGA is the first compound formed, and sativa in traditional cannabis thinking is the precursor coming out of the East, is what the most common thinking is, and then which can't really argue against totally, because my argument was that it was coming from the south and moving through the Hindu Kush, but the same would occur if it moved from the east. It would just occur from the other direction. So you would have sativa instead of indica starting, right? And I believed it was sativa starting anyway in South Africa. But the more predominant thinking is that it started in East Asia and still would have moved through the Hindu Kush to develop and mutate and evolutionarily. It just makes sense to me that the Hindu Kush mountain range and the very unique genetics that come out of there, that it would be like a perfect breeding ground for sativa to spread across that landscape, for the humid loving, jungle loving sativa to adapt to more arid and less humid environments through the Hindu Kush mountains, and then moving into the Afghani steppe, where it could evolutionarily develop into indica, for example. Anyway, so however, indica is an offshoot of sativa, it also follows that when you think about the fact that CBG is decarboxylated, however you say that, decarbed CBGA, right, which is exposure to heat and light, which is more likely to be more exposed to heat and light, indica or sativa? Indica, right? It's in the middle of the fucking desert steppe. It has no protection. It's getting beat down on by the desert steppe sun, which is the desert sun. Sativas, more so, a lot more competition, jungle canopy. So much different. And it plays out that CBG at the standard CBG amount in an indica hybrid, what you look for to be characteristic of indica hybrid and the cannabinoid profile is approximately 0.5% CBG. So about 1/3 of the CBGA. Again, making sense because you've decarbed CBGA. Yeah. And same the other way around too, it makes sense that sativas would have more CBGA, being exposed to less light and less heat, arguably having more humidity, which the water and the humidity in the air would dissipate more of the heat in the plant. I would imagine, I would think, that's how that would work. I mean, it would cause its own sort of weird heat, but that would be different. That's why you get like the fluffy fucking sativas. That's not any reason why, but contributing factor. Anyways, yeah, so CBG, I stumbled upon that while reading into Purple Punch. Yes. I believe it makes sense. It does make sense. I was also saying, I bet you that eventually CBN will be reclassified as psychoactive and like placed more so alongside THC than the other cannabinoids because it just because of the fact that you can oxidize it directly from delta 9 THC. And it's already known as like a more sedative, sleepy, and it's they're starting to sell it in the dispensaries now. But they just mentioned it to me the other day at the dispensary. They were getting some CBN edibles, I think it is. I don't know if they have THC in too or just CBN. I don't know if CBN alone will get you high. See, that's the other thing too, is we don't know, like, we understand that there's the endocannabinoid system and that cannabis is synergistic, the shit I always talk about. But we don't really understand what happens when we separate them out versus when they're active together, active in the endocannabinoid system. Like, do they activate the endocannabinoid system outside on their own? Like, it will CBN on its own activate the same will it activate in the endocannabinoid system in the same way? Will it even activate the endocannabinoid system, or will it act in some totally different fucking way if it's not paired with the other compounds present typically in cannabis? And that's a lot of what terpological protocol is reading out those variations through, like, for example, increases in beta myrcene causing higher more psychoactive, more fucking hard hitting, get you really fucking high strains. That's why I argue that our market is largely not medicinal. But people seem to not like my arguments. I don't know. It is not largely medicinal, though. Our market is based heavily in everything on recreational market. Like, it's only been legal in the States totally forever now for 10 years. So 10 years total from Colorado started. Well, if you go back to 99, then technically 23 years. So if you go all the way back to 1996, when they first started in California, that was technically the very beginning of the movement. There was some shit in Arizona and New Mexico in there too, but 1996 to 99 is when marijuana movement really started. And then, like in 2000 and shit, you still had the illicit market fucking thriving big time because you had auto flowers were just being developed in 2001. 2001. So, yeah. I think that's a lot of the reason why auto flowers are becoming so popular right now too. A lot of the reason they're becoming very popular right now is because they're pretty much like they've been around long enough that they're like primed to be very good growing cannabis plants. However, I don't seem to have a liking. They don't seem to take a liking to me. I unalived my auto. Too many nukes or something. I was able to grow 2 photos and then I unalived an auto, so I went back to the photos. But technically, I unalived 2 autos. Technically. So I've only actually harvested 2 plants right now. Brought to fruition, like from a seed, and I only harvested like 3.5, 4 grams off of them, so it was nothing. But I was still proud of my little tiny minuscule harvest, as funny as it was to some people watching me hang up two branches. I still hung them. I even had grapes on the one bud at the end, and I had to chop it off there. And I washed the rest of the bud. Thinking I'm going to grow this bud. I'm drying it and smoking it. It's my first cannabis. This is the PACMAN live resin. Again, I have no idea why I got a free 8 or why I was eligible for a free 8 the other day. Because I bought this. Like a deal they had going on or something, or a secret purchase thing. I don't know. It'd be pretty cool if it is like that, like a secret purchasing thing. Like just random little Easter eggs hidden throughout the menu. Like, hey, you buy this and you get a free one of this, or you get a $5, $50 this. Like I got that $5 fucking $44 regular $44. I got for $5, 400 milligrams of gummies. 200 milligram THC and 200 milligram CBD. And I did not think they were going to be as strong as they were. 60 milligrams got me very, very, very high. Like 55 milligrams didn't fucking touch me. And I always thought it was funny when, I don't know, I never really took seriously the go by 5 milligrams and only increase by 5 milligrams thing. But yeah, you should really go by that. Because I only went up to 60 and it like straight fucking obliterated me for a significant amount of time. So, yeah. Didn't expect that. Like, I expected, if anything, I expected to get like a fucking weird, freaky alley, psychoactive, I don't know, brain fuck kind of high. But it just like, I was really, really high. Like, super heavy body high, super fucking squinty eyed, like, watery eyed. I was high. I slept through most of it. And see, I had never really done edibles, taken edibles like hardcore before that. Taken RSO. And it is different. But I honestly remembered edibles being more like psychoactive than that. Not as like it those edibles honestly reminded me more of what I experienced with RSO. Like body sedation and more narcotic than what you get from smoking a cannabis product. In my opinion, the feeling is more narcotic, I should say, if that makes sense to anybody. Heavy. Super duper smooth. You can really taste the spice too. And there's no beta myrcene in it. Interestingly. There's slight beta myrcene in the dabs, a little tiny bit. But in the concentrate, or I mean in the flower, there's no beta myrcene at all. Not listed on the confirmation anyway. That's crazy how smooth it is, even when it grabs you. Well, that was a steady one. Oh yeah. Took a really nice shot of this banger. I don't remember when it was yesterday. Today sometime. I can't remember. It was a really good shot of it. I need to get me a better camera. Yes. Getting me a computer in the next couple of days. I want to get a nicer camera because the camera on this Android is better than the last camera that I had. But I don't know. It doesn't. One, I definitely want to get me one of those fucking little microscope things you can hook up to your phone. You can take video or camera with it and photos with it. People using the check their trichomes and shit on the pot plants. I just want to use it to fucking make content. Like take some like up close photos and shit of the flower, the labs, and of course my pot plants. And don't let that lack of beta myrcene and the lower beta myrcene knock you off of it. People see like a normal beta myrcene level anymore, like 0.75%, and the highest terp is 3%, 3.5%. And I don't know, people's expectations are very recreationally minded, and it's I don't know, it's odd for a lot of people do. They expect a lot of beta myrcene. And I know people prefer different shit, but I'm saying on average, people prefer more beta myrcene than not more beta myrcene overall. In my experience, anyway. But I guess I'm just one data point. But in my observation of many data points, I am one data point. Still one data point. There's a lot of people in the world, isn't there? There's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. Think about how lonely that makes you. How lonely that makes me. Oh, fuck. Oh boy, goddamn, pessimistic stuff. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I'm not being pessimistic. I'm only playing. It's not at all depressing. No. The world is fine. Everything will be alright. It's not as if all of the mythologies of all of time are coming together to fuck us all over galactically at once. Not at all. Ragnarok and the Greek Armageddon and the Roman end times and fucking Christian Armageddon, and it's all like Saturn's coming to fucking dick us in the ass and the big asteroid's coming to blow us the fuck up and Y2K in 2012. I mean, oops, sorry. I really do believe that we were at once a more advanced civilization than what we are now. I know that sounds like really more advanced. Yes, it's everything that you look at and see, and if you really look into it and don't just look at the surface content of like, oh, there was a great flood. Like I always thought I never took the flood story seriously at all until I heard some. And I shouldn't just take an intelligently minded person, but it's not intelligently speaking people. It's people that I know can think intelligently that were like using geological data and shit. And I'm not talking about the stupid dinosaur Christian guy. But there's crazy shit like that you can only see from airplanes that is like evidence of floodwater, like massive floodwaters, like end time like floodwaters that and the Native Americans have described in their legends floods. And we, I mean, don't really fucking know everything that's really there in Native American history because our culture is such a fucking colonizing fuckface. No, I'm not a leftist, but you have to admit what we did to the Native Americans was pretty fucked up. And I was just talking last night how my great grandma's name is Gertrude. My great great grandma on my mom's side, and she's full blooded Cherokee, but her name's Gertrude. And I was saying how like it sounds funny, right? But it's not uncommon, and it's not uncommon to see pictures from the late 1800s, mid 1800s of Cherokee Indian women in English-looking garb, like dress and stuff. Like you can still tell they're Indian. Like you look at like their skin is dark and their cheekbones are set like very very high, and they just look mean. She did. She had a very very mean look, very high cheekbones, and but yeah, Gertrude, funny name, backwards because Cherokees had to retreat into the Appalachians, and there too were backwoods white people living, developing. And yeah, that's how you get a lot of like. There's a whole lot in Appalachia of like Irish and Cherokee, and you hear a lot of white people claim that they have Cherokee and Irish and German, and it because it's true. Because that's what had a lot in Pennsylvania. You had the Pennsylvania Dutch settled, right? The German and the Amish. So right here in Pennsylvania, which is right outside of where Appalachia pretty much ends off, is Backbone Mountain. And Backbone Mountain, there's Amish up there in Garrett County. So the Pennsylvania Dutch are integrated into the community. Like, so there's a lot of yeah. They've been here a while. If you go around Garrett County and like this side of Maryland, not really Allegheny County, well, not at all in Allegheny County because there's no Amish down here, but Garrett County is the only county that the Amish settled in. I don't know why. But there's a Pleasant Valley up there and all that shit. So, if you go through Garrett County, northern Garrett County, and southern Garrett County, you'll see all the barns and like even non-Amish, like the Mennonite ones, even and some of them are just old farmers that just have hex signs on their barns. Yeah, you see the big old Pennsylvania Dutch hex signs and stuff. It's like actually what they are is like weather spells and different kinds of things from ancient farmers' lore, and they would paint them on their buildings. Some of them are flags, family flags, and things like that. But I'm talking about X signs, like geometric shapes and stuff. Pennsylvania Dutch witchcraft is kind of funny because, like, in traditional witchcraft, right, you have people either use tools, like traditionally you have an athame representing masculinity, and then a chalice or something representing a wound, like the cup is traditional in witchcraft. But in like Amish or Pennsylvania Dutch witchcraft, which is also referred to as powwow, not Indian, not like powwow, but different kind of powwow. That's what the rituals referred to. It is they use like butter knife and like what you would expect an Amish person would have and be able to use, like one white candle and like a little taper holder thing and a butter knife and like there's some interesting practices. There's a guy on Instagram that I follow that actually practices. He considers it like a dual religious practice or a dual faith is what he calls it. I don't like the word faith because I think it implies lack of understanding and knowing, which isn't always bad, but I just don't like the implication that is always involved with Christianity. But he calls it dual faith, and he practices witchcraft in the same way as a white Italian descendant that somebody who is descended from Haitian voodoo and culture in Louisiana might practice voodoo or some derivation of, or Santeria or something like that, right? That he uses the saints in a very similar way. That he doesn't venerate them in place of, like in voodoo, the saints are used in place of, like, it's kind of weird because in voodoo it just depends on how much faith the person has in which part of it, sort of, depending on how much they give to the fact that the saint is actually a representation of what is known as Loa, which are the spirit of actual voodoo and culture. However you want to word that. But Loa, the Loa, the spirits, like Vegve, that's I know some voodoo and cornmeal. Zulu, is that one? Is that the heart? But I'm seeing the heart in my head. There's a heart, cornmeal. I used to draw it all the time. But that's how they invoke the Loa. But in hoodoo, which is like what they had to evolve it into to be able to practice it, the African religion, and they substitute in saints for the spirits. They're essentially the same thing. It's just representations from different people of the same types of shit. And honestly, the way I think of it is when you have enough people that put belief in something, that belief, scientists know that belief in things can create change. And we know that the big thing now is perception is reality, right? Like you create reality with your thinking. And if you think of belief as the water, and just follow this analogy, and the river it comes from, where does the water come from? It comes from the top of the mountain, right? Which is the spirit at the top of the mountain. And water drips out, and from there flows all the rivers and streams that is all the religions and all of the gods and goddesses that all are belief throughout the world. All of the waters and streams that run into the oceans, that evaporate and then rain back down. That's all, that's how I see it. It all comes from, leads to, might be a longer path, a harder path, a more windy path, one with more rapids, one with less rapids. And I don't know. But they all lead back to the same place. They all come from the same place. And they all are driven forth by the same type of input of effort, that of belief and in the thing. So belief in the thing sort of makes a thought form, if you will, of the thing. If you want to take it to the individual level of occult thinking. Anyway, that was really off fucking topic for what all my content's all about on here. But whatever, I talk about whatever the fuck I want. Anyway, you want to see my plants? That's more on topic. I don't talk about that shit anymore. It's just more of a personal thing. I used to talk about it a lot. I think I had a YouTube channel that I talked about it on. Made a couple long videos. Two of them are really good. I like the one video that I made on Saturn 369. If you want to see it, read, like, see some, get thinking deep, check that video out. And it actually, like, attempt to think about, like, Tesla's triangles and, like, the stuff I have in there about Tesla and then Saturn, and I explain a lot in there about mythology and how it all ties together. And how it's really fucking weird that Saturn has a storm on its lunar pole that looks like the Hajj. Isn't that what it is when they dance around the black circle? When they walk around the black circle? Or, I mean, the black square in the middle of Mecca or wherever it's at? It's called the Hajj, right? That's what that storm looks like. It's a perfect fucking hexagon. Storm swirling around it. It's actually dying down all the way. Anyway, checked out these plants. That is the Afghani. And I don't know. It just looks different to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just because I know it's Afghani and I just think it looks different. But I think it really does. It has just a different look. It looks like Afghani. That's what I think. Anyway, so this is the G13 BSE still coming along. See what I was talking about yesterday? That propagation in the middle? Now you can see it more clearly. Kinda. Not really, but you can see the nice bright green in there. You can see inside her bright green center. And then there is the droopy looking Empire Strikes Back. I don't know if she's supposed to be so droopy. She's not really super duper wet right now, so she should perk up in the next day or two. I haven't drenched her in water or done anything other than just sprayed the surface soil, mixed everything together. So I did thin her. I want to see what that turns out to look like. I know what it's going to look like, ideally. Hopefully. It worked out every time I did it on my last plant until I unalived it. But that's what I was talking about with the bottom leaves. See the damage there? The one leaf on the Afghani is like that too. Yeah, you can see the fucking yellow tip on it. That's what happened to that leaf over there. That's what it started as, and it turned into that brown tip and then curled up. But I'm pretty sure it's magnesium. And I've been giving them CalMag like a motherfucker. So, yeah. It hasn't moved up those leaves any at all, so nor has it moved up that any. And I don't have any, like, intravenous chlorosis that I can see immediately, anyway. Those second leaves there do look a little, they all kind of look a little down pointed. That's because it was super duper fucking moist in that soil I had it in, and it's just now getting honestly dried out and where it should be at. So it'll perk up soon. I have the faith. I've got the door pulled open, cooling things down in here right now. That's what I was showing last night. Just open the window. If the air's not working, just pull this, open the window, and the fan pulls the cool air in here. Gotta be careful though. Don't get it too cold. The lights keep it nice and warm in there, especially with the mylar over it. Anyway, take it easy, lovely people. I know it's slow growing with photos, especially when I share them every single night, but hey, I'm like the fucking epitome of the meme that you see. Somebody says they check their plants every couple minutes. I really fucking do. Later.